Have we been living in a cosmic prison for 26,000 years? I mean, really think about that for a second. What if literally everything you've been taught about where we come from is, well, a deliberately constructed illusion? What if the whole world around you is actually a carefully engineered matrix set up thousands of years ago just to keep you completely in the dark about your true infinite potential? Well, today we are going to unpack the hidden architecture of our reality.
Now, to wrap our heads around the sheer scale of this reality, we've got to zoom way, way out. Like our universe? It isn't alone, not even close. There are exactly 144,000 universes out there. 144,000! And the one we're hanging out in right now is just a single drop in that ocean. We're talking about a massive architectural cosmic structure built on 32 dimensions of pure harmony. It's a vast, totally interconnected system that goes so far beyond anything modern astrophysics even touches on.
And that brings us to a pretty massive paradigm shift. The Big Bang Theory, the idea that our universe just popped into existence 13.7 billion years ago? According to this narrative, that is a complete fabrication. Our specific universe is actually incredibly ancient. We're talking at least 40 billion years old. The idea here is that mainstream science has been manipulated, basically to keep humanity thinking small. It effectively cuts us off from grasping the true mind-bending timeline of cosmic creation.
So let's get right into this explainer, the epic cosmic history, from the source to the matrix. We're going to break down this wildly complex timeline step by step. Let's dive in.
Part 1. The Cosmic Beginning, Before the Dawn of Time. Okay, let's start at the very, very beginning, the ultimate origin point.
So, in the absolute beginning, there was only the source. This is the ultimate, infinite creator, just existing in pure harmony across those 32 dimensions we mentioned. The source infused literally everything with its own divine energy. No pain, no division, no darkness whatsoever. But then, a cosmic anomaly happened. The electromagnetic energy of creation basically split into masculine and feminine forces, and the feminine energy, often called Sophia or wisdom, accidentally slipped into this chaotic vortex in the newly forming realms. Out of this absolute chaos, an unintended, completely inorganic entity was spawned. His name? Yaldabaoth. Sophia was terrified of this thing, which apparently had the head of a lion and the body of a massive serpent, so she hid it away in a dark, isolated corner. Now, because Yaldabaoth woke up in pitch blackness, with zero memory of how he was created, and completely cut off from the true source, he just ignorantly looked around and declared himself to be the one and only God.
Which leads us to Part 2, Rise of the Archons, the Cosmic Parasites.
Here's the thing about Yaldabaoth. Because he was an anomaly, he didn't actually have any true divine power to create life from scratch. All he could do was copy, imitate, and manipulate what was already there. And working with those limitations, he spawned these parasitic minions to help him rule. Enter the Archons. The best way to think about them? Highly intelligent cosmic malware. They're these formless, inorganic parasites. And since they were created completely outside the divine light of the source, they can't generate their own life force. So to survive, they have to feed. And what do they eat? Low-frequency, negative emotional energy. We're talking fear, anger, anxiety, suffering. If you picture a human being as this incredibly powerful, divine biocomputer, the Archons are basically the virus. They hack the system, constantly triggering negative emotions in us just so they can harvest that energy to stay alive.
All right, moving on to Part 3, the original human blueprint, Guardians of the Galaxy.
So while the Archons were busy spreading all this darkness, the true source was creating something absolutely magnificent over in the Lyra star system, the original human being. These beings were actually designed to be the ultimate guardians of the galaxy. They were placed right here in the universe to maintain justice, harmony, and balance. Get this, they were up to 40 meters tall, and they had a fully activated 12-strand DNA structure. They didn't even need external technology. They could use pure sound and vibration to lift massive objects, manipulate solid matter, literally perform miracles. But look at what we've become today. We've been reduced to just 2 active DNA strands. We're totally cut off from those innate abilities, we get sick easily, and our lifespans are incredibly short compared to that original blueprint.
Part 4. The Galactic Wars, the Fall of Humanity.
So how exactly did we fall from such immense heights? Well, our original power and that direct connection to the source sparked some serious cosmic jealousy. The reptilian races, who were highly advanced but didn't have that divine soul connection humans had, saw us as a massive threat. And that paranoia, it ignited a brutal 3,600-year-long galactic war. We were eventually overpowered and actually forced to flee our original home in the Lyra constellation. We eventually landed on a prehistoric Earth and founded the highly advanced, incredibly peaceful civilization of Lemuria. But as the story goes, reptilian and Archon forces sabotaged that utopia too. The refugees from there had to establish Atlantis, but even that was slowly corrupted from the inside by dark technology. Finally, the controllers just decided to wipe the slate clean entirely.
And this brings us to a pretty radical take on a story you'll find in almost every ancient culture on Earth. According to this framework, the Great Flood wasn't some act of divine justice from a loving God. It was a deliberate, calculated wipeout by the Archon-controlled Galactic Council. See, the humans back then were still living incredibly long lives and reproducing really fast. To truly enslave humanity, the controllers realized they needed to fundamentally alter our environment and our biology. The Flood was essentially a weapon. They used it to destroy our advanced civilization so they could rebuild humanity from scratch, but this time with severe genetic limitations built right in.
Part 5. The 3D Control Matrix, the Prison of Illusion.
Right after the Flood, Earth was effectively put under quarantine. They set up this invisible electromagnetic grid, apparently engineered by these massive plasma spiders known as the Chimera, and the whole point was to trap human souls in an endless cycle of reincarnation. So how does this cosmic prison actually operate? Well, first, it's biological suppression. They downgraded our DNA to keep us hyper-focused on just basic survival and reproduction, kind of like animals. Then, they layered on psychological control. We're talking patriarchal, fear-based religious dogmas and extremely oppressive financial systems that are specifically designed to keep humanity in a constant low-level state of anxiety over never-ending debt. And the ultimate goal of all this? Since you're biologically suppressed and psychologically terrified all the time, you are constantly emitting the exact flavor of negative energy the Archons need to feed on from the unseen dimensions. Now, to manage this giant energy farm on a day-to-day basis, the Archons use human proxies. You'll often hear them referred to as the Cabal. These earthly rulers supposedly operate under a pretty chilling set of secret agreements just to keep the prison running smoothly. Think about it. They use money not as a fair tool of exchange, but as chains of debt to keep you working endlessly. They slowly introduce toxins into the food, the water, the air, keeping our physical bodies weak and completely dependent on synthetic medicines. They promote endless wars and political division because, hey, humans fighting each other generates massive amounts of Archon food. And of course, they use modern media and digital tech to just completely distract your mind, making sure you never get a quiet moment to actually look inward.
But here is the really interesting part. The absolute greatest fear of these controllers is supposedly summed up by one of their own dark mandates. We will always hide the divine truth from them, that we are all one. They're absolutely terrified that we're going to wake up to the fact that we aren't isolated or weak or sinful beings. They dread the moment we realize that every single one of us has a direct, unbreakable link right back to the infinite source. Because the second humanity realizes this collective oneness, the entire illusion of the Matrix shatters instantly.
Which brings us to Part 6, the shift to 5D, the ongoing awakening.
Okay, so it sounds grim, but there is a massive light at the end of this dark cosmic tunnel. The narrative states that this 26,000-year cycle of Archon control is finally coming to an end. Right now, we're experiencing a massive influx of photonic light from the source, and it's triggering a global awakening. It's basically transitioning us out of this dying 3D matrix and into a 5D reality. We are leaving behind a life rooted in fear, these dense, disease-prone carbon bodies, and financial slavery. Instead, we're stepping into a completely new paradigm of harmony. The idea is that our biology is actually upgrading into a crystalline energy structure. We'll regain those original abilities of instant manifestation through thought alone, money becomes totally obsolete, and humanity finally gets to experience true, unhindered cosmic freedom. And honestly, the most empowering part of this entire concept is that ascending doesn't mean you have to go out and save the whole world. It literally just requires saving yourself. So how do you do it? You actively reject fear, anger, and anxiety. When you just refuse to be afraid, you are literally starving those Archon parasites. You have to do the work to clear out that subconscious negative programming, the stuff that falsely tells you you're weak or unworthy. Put down the phone, turn off the endless matrix distractions, just spend some time in silence, reconnecting directly with your own soul and that true source energy. Because in this scenario, knowledge is quite literally your greatest weapon. The controllers, they are currently in a state of absolute panic. Their matrix is glitching out, their food supply of negative energy is drying up as more and more people wake up, and their time is rapidly running out. They rely entirely on your ignorance to maintain their power. But once you know who you truly are, a divine 12-strand DNA guardian with a direct line to the ultimate source, they completely lose all authority over you.
Which leaves us with a pretty profound question to carry with you today.
Think about it. This entire control system, the ancient genetic manipulation, the oppressive financial grids, the endless division, it all relies on one single ingredient to function: your fear. If your fear is the very electricity that powers the Matrix, what happens to the prison walls when you simply choose not to be afraid anymore? Thanks for hanging out with me for this explainer. I'll see you next time.